Hey everyone, my name is Ella Pravitz. I'm joined here today by Quickshot and Laure. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Of
What else
course.
what else am I gonna do? I'm locked down.
Yeah, there's not too many options. Speaking of being locked down, brings me to my first question, which is how are both of you?
I'll go first. We're completely locked down in France, so obviously it's a bit hectic, if I may say. But I mean, we're healthy. Family is okay. We can still work. I mean, the LEC is back, so as far as I know, I'm fine. I just want this whole thing to be over, to be honest.
I thought I was gonna be fine in quarantine. It's not like the rules and regulations stay inside, only 2 people, play video games to save lives. I'm like, yeah, that's just normal. But after like 2 weeks of it now, this week was the first time that I started to go. I miss the movies, I miss restaurants, I
Right.
miss getting a cocktail. So I started to get a little fed up. But like
Mhm.
Law says, luckily we've got the show, we've got the prep, and we can at least focus on working, and that's not true for everybody. So I'm just very thankful that we work online and we get to broadcast.
Right. You do have the opportunity to broadcast. What are the biggest differences that the impacts had on both of your professional lives, though? Because I can imagine it still
Oh.
altered that a bit.
Interesting because we
Everything.
actually had this conversation with Trevor 2 days ago, and everything is different. Like the cues between broadcast talents, me, for instance, when I have to interview players and I can't see them, it's like really frustrating, and I feel like I have to learn my job all over again. But I mean, it's a new experience, so we're getting used to it. The stream is stable, so let's say it's just minor adjustments on our
Yeah,
hand.
Just like this interview.
bold statement. No, but like I mean, for anybody that watched LEC last weekend with Schalke finishing the split and Law doing the Odo Omne interview, imagine doing that emotional interview and not seeing somebody's eyes and body language and reactions. And it's similar when you're shoutcasting on the analyst desk. We have so much non-verbal communication because you don't see us a lot of the time, especially in casting. Hand signals are gone. Having a crowd of 200 people, when you say a joke in game on air, you get a very small taste test, right? You're like, oh, did that joke land? And if they laugh and clap, then you go, great, I'll keep doing this. We don't have that anymore. We're screaming into the abyss. I'm screaming into my bedroom walls. I told my neighbors, hey, on Friday and Saturday evenings, it might get loud. Don't worry, nobody's being murdered. It's just my job to scream at computer screens. So it's really different. It was very scary for me because I didn't have a webcam. I didn't own a webcam or a microphone.
Mm.
I haven't made my own content since 2012. So I had to learn how Discord works, right? That's how old I am.
Wow.
But yes, but it's been
I
a
didn't
big
know you were that behind. Well,
Yeah, I
I'm
had
glad you
the same
figured this
issues.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on, Laura.
Yeah, I was gonna say I had the same issues being freelance and like ending up in front of my computer alone and having to work. I was like, oh, okay, so I don't have a webcam, I don't have a good mic. How am I gonna work now? So yeah, it's adjustments and uh,
we are so spoiled. Like we go to
yeah, realizing
we have
that's
all the gear.
exactly.
Had everything provided for you. What do you think the most innovative solution you've seen from someone on your team is with the constraints and working from home?
Everything that Law has done. And
Oh,
the reason I'll say that,
thank you.
very fortunately, with the Berlin team and all the shoutcasters being based in Berlin, our IT team, our production staff, our producers, they got a bunch of like rigs that we use on stage and on broadcast, got them configured to broadcast and stream. We have lights delivered, green screens delivered, monitors delivered, desktops delivered. We're working on microphones right now. Laure lives in Paris and has had to do everything by herself. So everything she's done is by far the most innovative.
And I would say everything that they've done, to be honest, because my internet is stable in France and it's been hectic in Berlin, and they had to use all these setups. So, from the
Right.
broadcast members to the producers who managed to synchronize all of this mess, I'm really impressed.
Actually, that is true. And I owe an apology to Kevin, Brett, and Deppa, our 3 producers on the LEC, because them with our events team and our IT team, we've had to look at like all the software, all the tech, all the tools, connect them to at least 10 gaming houses, at least 8 shoutcasters of houses, because Vedius and Froskuren are roommates. With the internet, with the different, connections and everything. It's a connectivity nightmare, and we're still
Mhm.
working on it. That was why I did inverted commas clean stream earlier, but it's getting
Right.
much better every single show.
Trevor, you recently said on broadcast that Quickshot, the character, is an optimist, but Trevor is a pessimist. Can you elaborate a bit more on what you mean by that? And what's one thing recently that Quickshot has been optimistic about, but Trevor is pessimistic about?
So you two both know me personally, and I think you both know how true that statement is. And I think what'll be important to delineate is basically like the elements of my character, my personality that are optimistic and happy, and the things that I love, I just double down on, and I push heavily, especially on broadcast. And when I was really happy and casting, and I think it was casting with Yamato actually, where I said that, I was just really like, I was really stoked the games I got to cast were better than the day before, and I was happy my tech setup was working, and I was in a really good place. So what has Quickshot the Optimist been optimistic about, and Trevor pessimistic? I think my microphone and my audio quality. Um, I have a fucking insane microphone on loan from you, Ella, which is great. And at the risk of making a lot of bad noise, I bought like this badass Echo Guard, and because there's a lot of echo in my room. So I was really optimistic that it was going to work. But then I plug everything in and I go, I don't know how this tech works. I don't know how this preamp works. I don't know what settings to do. And then I just get really like sad and depressed that, I'm a 32-year-old man that doesn't know how to plug in a microphone and get it working. So that would be the audio and technology both combined.
Well, you sound great, first of all.
Yeah.
The SM7B also is you can get pretty close to it and doesn't pick up a lot of noise. So I think you're good. And I like the contraption you made there. It looks pretty cool. How did you create the character of Quickshot in the first place? Did you have any form of inspiration that you pulled from, or did you kind of naturally develop him?
In the early days, a lot of inspiration. For anybody that has been following me or watching my stuff, in 2012, when I started doing freelance commentary, I only wore Star Wars t-shirts every single day. I broadcast Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays while I was working full time for a company in the evenings. And I did a lot of like ESL events, Go for Lols. I branded myself as the optimist, the happy-go-lucky. I never used my name. I called myself that South African Shoutcaster. And I was very, very deliberate in putting together an image and a persona. The things that were unique about me, my accent, my love for nerdy things, my Star Wars tattoos, I promoted them every day. And after about 3 or 4 months of broadcasting, I did a few bigger gigs, and I wore a Muppets t-shirt. And it was Kermit the Frog, and it said, "You Muppets." It made it to the #1 thread on the subreddit, and the topic was that South African caster is not wearing a Star Wars t-shirt. And it was deliberate, it was by design. So in the early days, yes, I was very, very selective, and I curated a lot of things that I did. Now I'm fortunate enough to be fairly established, and I get to just share the things that I love. I still do it in a calculated way. Everybody's calling me the old man now. Nobody else was the old man on broadcast. I've pushed my broadcast teams, my colleagues, to do it, because now if any other League of Legends person gets called the old man, they're like, you stole that from Quickshot. And
Right.
So like who I am and what I present, it's a portion of my personality. I love esports. I love commentary. I love talking at people, as you can tell in this call already. And now I just add little bits extra that I get to have some fun with, and hopefully fans respond to.
I love that. Now, Laure, you haven't had as much time to, kind of develop your personality yet, but you've been, dove into the scene head on. And this is a bit of a personal question, but since you've done that, I don't know a single person who's quite as received as much unnecessary, I'd say, public flack as you, but has continued to thrive in the face of adversity. So I really want to know, kind of almost for all of us on a personal note, like, what do you do to tell yourself to keep going and growing, especially when you're kind of faced with that, when you're a new person in the scene, unlike, Trevor, who's had this big legacy? What do you do?
That's a good question and a really hard one, because I don't quite still know how to not focus on that. And I'm really thankful that I have colleagues as great as Trevor, for instance, or Sharks or Frascarin, who help me on a daily basis whenever I'm falling down, to just pick me back up and just say, okay, hey, it's gonna be okay. You're great. This is internet. Don't focus too much on what they say. Just focus on what we guys say. And honestly, it helps me. And but sometimes last year, for instance, I wanted to quit at some point. Like I wasn't sure I was going the right way,
I wouldn't let
and
her.
all this, and yeah, he wouldn't have let me, and Shocks wouldn't have let me either. And that's also one of the reason I wanted to come back, because they gave me this warrior spirit in a way. Like I mean, they are the broadcast person. If I had to think of someone who's um, amazing on broadcast and what they do, it would have to be the LDC team that I'm working with right now. And actually, they inspired me to thrive, and they just reminded me that I love esports too much to quit. And that's what I try to remember when I wake up in the morning and I'm gonna read some shitty message. I'm gonna be like, hey, okay, that sucks, but I still love esports, and you don't do nothing. So yeah,
Trevor,
that's
what makes you
my motto.
so passionate to grow the talent and to find talent? Because I know that's a big part of your job now, especially while you're kind of managing the team. What I would like, yeah. What do you see? What did you see in Laure that made you want to make sure that she keeps kind of growing in that way and the passion behind growing people?
She's fucking good at her job. Honestly, I wish Laura could have more time on broadcast, because her role is to get information out of other people. You don't get to hear as often how passionate, how knowledgeable, how really, really in love with this game that she is. And it's something that just it fuels me. I've been with the LEC since it started, and I've always been an old man in a young person's body. My parents told me I was 13, turning 30. And I wanted responsibility. I wanted to lead. I like the idea of my head being on the line and delivering, and over my career I've like pushed towards this. To be frank, it started quite selfishly. I wanted to lead and grow people because I wanted a good team around me. I wanted to work on a broadcast team that I was excited to work with. And as I've grown up and I got married and I got a house, now I'm like, okay, I've had a pretty like good run so far. Now I want to see other people do it. And I think last year's final summer in Athens, I wasn't even on the show. I think it was the best final we've ever had. I think the broadcast team and everybody on it put on the best show ever. I wasn't there. I cried. Like I bawled so much after the event was over because I was just so excited and proud of everybody. Um, and at the end of the day, there's like a saying, the money makes money, skill makes skill, passion breeds passion. We've just got a really good team that are driven. We support each other, and I am by no means responsible for people's success. I'd like to think I've helped people, but finding the right people with the right mindset and the right drive makes all the difference.
How do you think that both of your experiences, this kind of question, both of you, have changed based on at what point you came into the scene, if that makes sense? Do you think, for example, that Trevor, you maybe had an easier time or faced different challenges, or what those looked like coming in much earlier in the stage of development of esports versus Laure? Like, what do you think are kind of unique challenges that each of you face that are different to one another?
Oh, I think if I can respond for Trevor, for instance, because I was watching him from afar, they had to build everything, like the foundations of League of Legends broadcast and everything. They had to build it, and I mean, it's basically going from scratch and having to improvise. So, to build and shape the face of of Legends to be what it is today. Wow, I mean, I'm so impressed. It's insane because coming in here, the task was hard because I had to match these people, if that makes sense, but they also had to build everything that made League of Legends as it is. So I just had to fit in, if that makes sense. But
Mhm.
their role was like much bigger than this back then.
I mean, I think it's a blessing and a curse though, Law, because
Yeah.
while we were building the show, there wasn't a quality bar. We invented it. We developed it, and frankly speaking, I don't know if I would have be able to become a shoutcaster nowadays if I was at the same level when I joined. I mean, for anybody that remembers the awful days of Quickshot's color casting, I applied to be a play-by-play, and Riot Games said, "We've got Joe Miller and Lee D-Man Smith. Like, you want to be a play-by-play next to those guys? Good luck." So, I was working really hard. I did a lot of solo casts at the time. We didn't have a benchmark for what color casters were supposed to be. So I was lucky to get in. I was fortunate enough that, hard work off camera also helped me eventually get the play-by-play. But like Law says, I think the biggest challenge is going to be hitting that quality bar nowadays. And I also think for Law, if I can speak for her, being non-native English and being a female presenter in a male-dominated industry, brings with it a whole slew of challenges that we're just not used to yet. Traditional TV, there's workflows, isn't it? There's decades of learning and understanding, and we don't have that yet. And when you think of the toxicity of a television audience, there's no Twitch chat, there's no Reddit, there's no Twitter. There's so many layers of separation. We don't have that, and I've seen firsthand just how difficult it is to deal with that.
Absolutely. I think you both are killing it from my perspective, but it's so fascinating to agree to see the development of the early stages and then people coming in later and how that, the whole industry is shaping itself, from LAC to teams, et cetera. Now I want to transition a bit into bringing it into the current day a little bit more. So, Quickshot. Last week, Dan pulled out the Teemo top in a troll comp against G2. and you tweeted at Dan in his tweet before the game, quote, "You better make this happen. PR approved, right?" And you tagged Becca. "Please defend why you are single-handedly not responsible for our loss."
Oh, because your team sucked. It's not my fault. Yes, I instigated that. So Dan put a tweet out and he said, if this gets like 100 retweets, I'll play Teemo top. And I was like, first of all, get some ambition, man. 100 retweets when you've got all the followers you do, that's pathetic. Get more numbers. Secondly, I was within the first 10, right? So after I retweeted, I think I was like number 6 or number 7. I ran to Becca. I was like, Becca, you need to see this tweet. You need to jump on Slack. You need to tell the team to do this now. This is the best way to end the split. I don't know if this counts of collusion. If it does, I'm so sorry. And Becca, actually, when she opened Slack, she said that Hussein and the team were already talking about it. And I was like, yes,
Nice.
that's the way.
Yep.
Nice.
So anyways, I instigated it. They played badly, just like Dan played Nocturne top badly. Neither of those are my fault.
I mean, I kind of prefer to propagate the narrative that it is your fault, but we can go with either. Laure, multiple players have moved from the LFL to LEC, including Dan, who we were just talking about. Why do you think the LFL is the regional league to watch, and why do you think there's such a good talent pool there?
I mean, we always had kind of good French players, I think. And to me, alongside the Spanish league, the French league has been one of the oldest one in Europe, if I may. So the fact that we restructured the league 2 years ago into the LFL as it is right now, already had foundations behind this. So we already had a pool of the of players available. Unfortunately, Vitality this year, which is not a good example because most of the players come from the LFL. But if we look at Misfits as it is, and the fact that most of the players were in the lineup last year when everything was burning, basically, proves that these players can be quickly ready. And from what I see right now in the LFL, we could expect to see more of LFL players joining the LEC next year, I feel.
Absolutely. And next week, our own Misfits Premier team plays Gamers Origin. Who do
Yeah.
you think is going to come out alive from that, and why is it Misfits?
Okay, so
loaded question.
you should know that in France, I'm one of the few who's rooting for Misfits in this matchup. They think
few.
that Origin should win this one. I don't agree. I think that it's amazing that the team has been so successful. I mean, the team was successful last year, and they changed most of them these players this year, and still they have a competitive lineup who's ended up top 2. So obviously great structure behind this and great coaching staff behind the players. So I would expect to see Misfits Premier reach the finals, maybe not win it because LDL COL is pretty strong right now, but you will definitely beat Gamers Origin, that's for sure.
I love that. I'm hoping you're right, and we can stomp all the haters in that.
I
Last
have a
question,
bad
bringing it
history
to
in jinxing teams, so I
no.
hope...
Yeah, you're speaking to like one of the biggest KT fans on
Yeah.
the planet. So
I'm
she's used to
sorry.
disappointment in teams she likes.
Oh gosh, it's both of you jinxing us. I can blame both of you on this. So right after this airs, we're going to be playing Rogue. And Trevor, this is a question for you. Misfits is ahead of Rogue in the standings, but they've lost to them twice. Judging by last week's performance, excluding the troll comp against G2, what do you think Misfits needs to beat Rogue and squash Han Sama's hopes of revenge?
I actually think this is going to be a really difficult series to call. Frankly, both of your teams, Misfits and Rogue, both playing, disappointed me in the last few weeks of play. I think from what I've seen, I would believe that Rogue have a slightly higher consistency in their performance than what I've seen from Misfits throughout the split. But I also believe that Misfits have demonstrated higher highs than what I've seen from Rogue. So for me, it comes down to mentality. It comes down to being in the right headspace. These are really difficult times. It feels to me that both Misfits and Rogue have struggled to take their on-stage performance off stage. So for me, it's just about like going back to the win streak version of Misfits at the beginning of the split, whatever breakfast cereal they were eating and whatever was happening in scrims, if they can bring that form back, it's on the players. I genuinely believe Misfits can beat Rogue, but it's Misfits series to lose, if that makes sense. I think, like I
Right.
said, their ability to outperform is there, but the players have to step up and they have to deliver. And if there's any speed wobbles, that's where I get nervous. I think Rogue has shown a consistent level of play. The one thing I will say, I think Rogue's drafting is very questionable. So that could also be a way that they could trip up and allow Misfits in the door.
Yep, I agree. I agree,
Yeah.
especially in series, and
Mhm.
the fact that I don't see Rogue being, how can I say that? Innovative enough to put out some creative comps during a
Yeah.
best of 5 series, and also I believe a bit more in Misfits' ability to reset their mindsets between games.
Yeah, that I agree with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping they manage to reset that and trip up Rogue. It would be lovely. Also, I just love the narrative of Hansama in general. We finally take him down the
Do
last
you know,
bit.
I was blown away. During the season, there was a hype video coming into one of the Rogue Misfits games, and Hans Summer was like, "Yeah, I just didn't really gel, and I find the team environment in Rogue, very different. It helps a lot when the team's picking up wins, and we look at." I believe the LEC broadcast terminology was dumpster fire of Misfits 2019 roster.
Right.
I'm really sorry to say this on your show.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you though, Ella, because hearing Hans Summer be quite direct about it, and also you can see, I think Hans Summer has played his best games when it's been against Misfits. Like he's hungry to take you
he
guys
is.
down.
Oh, he is.
And it would be great. It would be fun to see like what Febby can do, having played with him for a number of months. I'm interested to see that. So like it would be great. I won't be casting the game. It should be Dracos and Frostgrown that will. But I'd love to see Febby roam bottom and kill Hans Summer and hear the calls in game.
Oh, I would love that as well. Just that full-on revenge from the dumpster fire, as you so eloquently phrased it, of last year. All right, that pretty much wraps up our time, but I just want to thank you guys so much for both being here and all of your insight, and as well as personal information about your careers, etc.
Oh,
Thank
you,
you
Ella.
very much. I'm excited to see what happens in the series this weekend.
All right. Bye, guys. Talk to you next time.
Bye.
Wow. Somehow you actually made it to the end of this 20-minute video. I did not expect your intention to be that long. If you made it, I can presume you liked it, in which case drop a like, drop a comment, drop a subscribe, and we'll see you next time.